Hello, I'm Dr. Satish Singhal, PhD, from professor at Rose State College, Computer Information Technology, located in Midwest City near Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. I did a C++ struct video 1. This is continuation of that. In this one, we will talk about read access to struct members, passing struct to functions, and returning struct as return values from functions. So these three things we want to talk about. Let's do the review of video 1. In video 1 on C++ struct, we reviewed the followings: how to define a struct, member selection using dot operator, populating struct, or how to get write access to struct members, and how does a populated struct instance looks like in RAM. So if I have a code like this, I declare struct student has the 4 members or 4 fields. String last is the last name field, student's last name. String first is the student's first name. Int age is the student's age on last birthday. And GPA, which is double type, is the current GPA of the student. And we showed in the previous video that we get access to each of these members, last, first, age, and GPA, after we create an instance S. This should be done in main, of course. And then we get a member selection. S.last is on the left hand side. This acts just like an ordinary variable. And the value stored, which is do in this case, is on the right hand side. So this populates S.last, and last name fields look like this. Then if I do S.first, I get access to the first name field and set John in there. Then first name field inside the RAM looks like that. And if I say S.age, I get access to the age field, the age member. And if I set it to 23, it'll look like this in the RAM. And if I say S.GPA is 3.4, I'm setting the GPA field of S, which has this structure, to 3.4. And then overall structure S in RAM looks like this. Okay. So this is how we populate the struct. Now we want to see how we can read this data that is stored in a struct. So a populated struct members, a struct when populated, its member can be read using the member selection by dot operator, just the way we did the member selection for putting values in the struct members. So for example, member of a struct S populated earlier can be read or outputted using C++ syntax like this one. Cout, student name, that's a literal string. Then S.first selects the first name. So basically, it's going to get access to John here, and it's going to output that. Then I have a blank space between first and last name. And then when I say S.last, I get access to the last name field, which was Doe. Last name field was Doe. So then I print that. So it will print really John Doe. Now understand that structs are outputted by outputting each struct member separately. This is a major change compared to standalone variables. So aggregate operations such as this one here, if I just cout arrow s, that's not available to struct as a whole. There's a technology called operator overloading which can make that possible, but this is not inbuilt in C++ that you can output struct with cout arrow s. That's just not possible. Okay. Now we demo this read access mechanism in Xcode on Mac. So we're just going to go to Xcode now. So let's do that. So here, once again, I'm declaring the struct here. Same thing that you saw in the PowerPoint. Last name field, which is string type. First name field, which is a string type. Age on last birthday, which is int type. GPA, which is the double type. We'll worry about these functions later. So here, I'm creating the struct and populating the members. This is what we showed earlier or in the video 1. But now we are getting access to the member of the struct, and we are printing the student S using the member selection in the main function. So I showed this one in the PowerPoint earlier, that we can get access to the first name, first field as dot first using the member selection. So this should really print out the name of the student, and then age on the last birthday. S dot age gives me read access also, and then S dot GPA gives me read access to the GPA field. Okay, and when I run this program, for believability, I'll just run it right now. So this first set of data that got printed, printing student S using member selection main function, this is the line that got printed by this line here. This line got printed by this line here, and code of this will be available to you, by the way, either on my blog or if you're my student then on D2L, Desire to Learn, or any other course management system. And then the GPA, this got printed here. Okay. So next thing we want to talk about is how we can pass struct to the functions. So just like ordinary variables and arrays can be passed to the function, structs can also be passed to the function. And you can pass them by value, not a problem. But structs are heavy objects, so it's a good idea to pass them by reference, because the number of bytes they have can be large. So let me emphasize this by just typing it actually. So structs can be passed to functions by value, but structs can be bulky, so it is a good idea to pass struct to functions by reference. And if you don't want struct to change, then you can pass it as a const reference. And that's what we're going to show you in Xcode now. So we want to write a print function. All I want function to do is print the struct S using the member selection, the way we did, for example, here, to the console. And we're passing it reference by reference because struct could be bulky. I mentioned that. So it'll save us some RAM. But I don't want print to make any changes to the object or instance S. So I pass it as a const reference. So this is the prototype for the function print. So Code is really identical. All I had to do was just take this code and copy and paste to print function. Well, let's see the code of print function. So struct instance s type student got passed to print function, and we use the member selection option to get the read access, and we print the struct to console here. Notice if we are passing struct, printing a struct to a file, I can pass an offstream object also in addition, or a ostream object to print to a file. All right, so the same struct that I constructed here, I'm printing using the print function. So when I execute this line, the control will transfer to the print function. This s has the same values as this one. It's not passed by value mechanism, it's passed by reference. So the address of this object is passed here, and then it prints to the console all these values. And we have done that already. So this time we are printing student s using call to print function, and you will see that it's going to print all the same values that were here. All right. So passing by reference is important because it will save you RAM. And since we didn't want print to make any changes, we passed that as a const reference. And I've done another video that explains what const reference means. If you search for it on my channel, you'll see it. Okay. The third topic we want to talk about is returning structs from functions as a return value. So just like structs, just like ordinary variables can be passed, can be returned from functions as a return value, you can return struct also as a return value from functions. Absolutely no problem. And we're going to show you that. So then we write a function called getStudent, and the purpose of this function is it'll prompt user for a student's first name, last name, age, and GPA, any order you like. It'll build the struct s, which means it's going to populate all the struct members, and return so built struct by the return mechanism, and that's why you have the return type student. Okay, so let's see this function, and I'm gonna close this one because I'm finished using that. So here no arguments needed because we are just using the cout and cin. So first I create a blank struct. So this will create a blank struct, and then I prompt user enter student's first name, and then notice the struct has 4 members: first, last, age, and GPA. I can just use cin std.first because std.first behaves just like a string variable into which you can store data using cin in the syntax. Okay. So program will ask student's first name. Whatever they enter, they will press the enter key, and std.first stores whatever name was entered by the user. So basically you filled up the first member of the struct over here. Then we ask the last name, and since std.last behaves just like an ordinary variable, we can do cin std.last. So this will populate the last name field. And then if we ask a student's age on last birthday, and then do cin std.age, we'll populate the age field. And finally, when we ask a student GPA and do cin std.gpa, we'll populate the GPA field. So each struct member is a data type for which cin is defined. So all the struct members will get populated, and then the return statement returns the std struct that has got filled. Return type is student, so there's a match between return type and what's being returned, and the main function will get that value. So we have done that in the main function. We are showing that here. We are defining a second student as 2, calling the getStudent function. On this line here, the control will transfer to getStudent, and all this code will be executed. std will be populated, this time of course by keyboard pop input, returned. std that is filled will be returned, and the values, return value will be copied member by member to S2. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but the great thing about struct is that one struct is copied into other easily. They are copyable using the assignment operator. Okay, and then in the code we are printing the new student gotten by getStudent function, and print again passes to this and does the printing. And we have run this program before. Okay, cancel. I don't know why it's interfering with that. So in any case, the output, when we, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to enter the data here. Okay, Tim Jones, 34 and 3.8. And then, can you see that I entered that data here, and then I'm printing the new student gotten by the getStudent function. So Tim Jones, 34 years, 34, 3.8, 3.8. Okay, so what did we confirm in this video? We have read access to struct members using the dot operator to select the members, and we show that here, the read access. We can pass struct to functions just like ordinary variables can be passed. And it's a good idea to pass struct by reference, although you could pass them by value. I generally don't use that mechanism. And print function gets struct student by reference. The reason I put const because I don't want print to make any changes. And the struct can be returned by the function as return value, like getStudent does here. And getStudent fills the struct student by user input from the keyboard and returns that. Okay, so those are the topics for this video. Thank you again for watching, and any comments will be highly appreciated. Dr. Singhal saying thanks again.